Pisana ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas. Our Philippine Standard Time is 9:01 in the evening. It's good evening here in the Philippines and good morning in Washington, D.C. Good morning, Sister Eliza and let me check on that. Okay, Sister Diane, or okay. Good morning po to anyone po in Washington, D.C.
Good morning po and good evening to those tuning into the Philippines. We're so excited for today's show.
Okay, let me just relay my late greetings to you, sister. Happy New Year to everyone in Washington D.C., and we'll be turning over to you for the next 30 minutes of broadcast.
Happy New Year. Hello, everyone tuning in. Um, hello, everyone. Uh, our intro today will be me. Welcome to INCRadio, Washington, D.C. Satellite Studio. I'm Sister Eliza, and my co host is Sister. I wonder what her name is. Sister Darlene.
Hi everyone, good morning and happy new year.
Yes, Happy New Year 2024. Okay, so today is January 6th, 8:03 a.m. and we're talking about knowing when it's time to move on.
Mhm.
So let us get started. I'll pass the floor to Sister Darlene.
Thank you so much, Sister Eliza. So we do invite all of our audience tuning in this morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be, to please go ahead and join us in our conversation. We'd really love to hear from you as well. And mainly, we want to, talk about what is love, the heartbreak, how does time really affect the situations, but mostly, how do we know when it's time to move on? That can be a very tricky situation because it's so different for everyone. So we're going to go ahead and start a conversation, and again, please feel free to go ahead and join us in our conversation this morning. And we see that there are a lot of people already saying hello and good morning. Thank you. Please go ahead and join us. So we want to hear from everyone. But for you, Sister Eliza, how do you know when you love someone?
Ooh, love. For me, I feel like you love someone when you feel comfort because this can apply to your friends and your family. When you feel that it's like you're with them, you feel safe, and
Hmm.
you don't even have to talk to them, but you already feel like you're like, oh, I can stay here for as long as I want, especially for hangouts, like group hangouts. It doesn't feel like you're forced to hang out with them. And I feel like that's what love is. So it's like comfort.
Yes, I agree with that. For I think for me, when it came to finding, knowing if I love someone, one of the one of the first signs that I had, let's say for Brother Marlon, was when we were first talking, just talking. We weren't really in a committed relationship yet. When I knew that my feelings are actually deeper than where I thought they were, when I
Mhm.
started fearing for his safety, he was actually up north or something, and there was a storm that came, and I was actually a little worried for him. Not little, I was really worried for him, and his way of coming back home because of the trains, and obviously it's not safe because it's snowing. So yeah, a lot of emotions that came into effect that I was just like, why do I feel this way?
Yeah, that's like my first time hearing that, like worrying for someone's safety. And I do
Mhm.
realize when you leave or like separate ways from like a hangout or whatever, you're like, oh, stay safe. Text me when you get home, and
Right.
like hope you're healthy. Especially with the pandemic, that's when I was like, yeah, say like being healthy is very important for everyone, and especially those you love.
Yeah, and I think for others, when we've asked around, they may feel like there's a deep connection between them and another person. It doesn't even have to be romantic. It could be familial. It could be even platonic,
Mhm.
or even professional. But there is like a deeper connection, and sometimes right off the bat, it may be a little bit different because they have a more profound respect or acceptance of that person. Um, and then others, they're they may have more affection, while others may feel that they have a bigger willingness to compromise. I think that may be a
Yes.
clue for others when they may be like, no, this is how I want to do it. This is how I really want to keep living a certain or keep doing a certain thing. But when someone else comes along and they're willing to compromise how they normally have done something,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I think that's when you can tell that um, they love someone. Okay, but the next question, this is gonna be almost like a 180 for our audience. You know, we were talked about like how you know when you love someone, but what are some causes of heartbreak? How about for you, Sister Elisa?
Heartbreak. I've never felt like heartbreak like in a romantic way, but I
Mm,
did feel like heartbreak when it came to family, because so beginning of 2023, I lost my dad, and that's when I was like, oh, I never felt this kind of emotion before. Like my
mm,
heart was actually like it felt like it was being squeezed, or like
mm.
I don't
Like
know,
crushed heavily, like it's hard to breathe.
and it was like shattered. And then I was like, I used to think like heartbreak, oh, that's like an expression. It's like probably when you're sad. But I was like, no, this is like a real heartbreak. Like it literally feels like it's breaking. So
Yeah, it almost feels like the word heartbreak is like an understatement,
mhm,
isn't it? Yeah.
yes. What about for you, Sister Darlene? So, for me, it's family, but I want to know what heartbreak is like in a different, it could be like,
Different way.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think I've also experienced heartbreak when it comes to family, whether it's like a falling out or whether it's like for friends where you have drifted apart. But even for, romantically, when you're no longer when the values are no longer the same, or you realize that the relationship is not providing any benefit for each other. And I'm talking about more just dating. This isn't about those who are in marriages because that one is more solidified. But when it comes to relationships that are romantic, I feel like heartbreak can almost feel like you've also grieved, because you are now mourning the person you used to be. You're mourning the person that you were in that relationship. You're mourning the relationship as well as the person that you used to connect with. That is like a disconnect at that point. But I think it's different for everyone. Some experience heartbreak through maybe they felt betrayed, or maybe they love someone, but that person doesn't love them back. So that's it sounds like the Korean drama or anything, right? But yeah, there are that could be one thing, and another could be when someone falls out of love. That can be another tricky thing because yeah, you may love someone, but then you realize your emotions for that person may not be the same way,
Mhm.
or vice versa. They may not feel the same way towards you. So there's a lot going on there that we're trying to unpack. But I'm wondering, do we have any comments from our YouTube chat so far?
Yes, so we have Brother Marvin Sabas. He said, for me, I define love as choosing them every day and loving them unconditionally.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
that was a good answer.
That's very good. That's great, Brother Marvin. I think I can attest to that, especially now being a mother. I understand that your heart can open up differently. There is a different way that you love, let's say, the person that you're involved with romantically. There's a different love that you have for your parents, your siblings, but there's also a whole nother kind of love that you really won't be able to experience until you have your own like child or someone that you absolutely care for. You're willing to like give your whole life for them. So yeah, that's really great. Thanks for the Marvin.
Yes, I feel like
Um,
love really changes your perspective.
yes.
So, before we move on to our other discussion,
Mhm.
when we return, we'll continue with our discussion. And, how do you know when it's time to move on and how do you do it? So don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages.
You are listening to Iglesia Ni Cristo Radio, the voice of truth.
As the new year starts, have you set goals that are achievable and practical? Have you reflected on the lessons you learned from the past year? Join us this Sunday, January 7th at 4 p.m. Philippine Standard Time or 5 p.m. Korean Standard Time as we discuss the factors to consider in setting your goals, making them happen, and starting the year right. See you then!
Hello, DJ. How was school today?
Hi, Nanay. It was good po. How about you po? How was your day? And are you almost home po?
It was great. The weather is amazing too. And I'm almost home. Is there something bothering you?
Our art teacher asked our class to paint a bunny and egg, but I told him that I do not celebrate Easter because it's against the teaching of God po.
That's right. We are taught from our worship services and Bible studies that we do not follow such practices because it's not from the Bible. You can share the website incmedia.org to your teacher so that he can understand what we are taught.
Okay po. I will do that po. See you soon po.
INCRadio Washington DC satellite studio. Let's give a quick shout out to those who have tuned in so far. So let's name them real quick. We have Sister Amelia Salazar, we have Brother Tyler Warden, Sister Mirna Natividad, Brother Rani Bayuga, I think,
Yes.
right? And Brother Danilo Yumo, and let's see for the other comments. I love this comment. So the question was earlier, how do you know when you love someone? And Brother Randy said, eat raw onions with her. I think that's real love right there. So let's pass it on to Sister Darlene again for our discussion.
Thanks, Sister Eliza. And so, for everyone, please again join us in our conversation because we really want to hear from you. Brother Marvin actually had a great comment earlier, and so we want to see if there's anyone else who have other comments that they'd like to share. But the next question is, how does time affect the situation for you? You've experienced heartbreak. Does time help? How about you, Sister Eliza?
Time, time. I feel like it does help. So when it comes to grieving, I think it does take a while. It takes a whole while. It can last for years, I feel like. And yeah, and I feel like even for those that I've talked to that can relate to my kind of situation, I feel like they haven't even moved on. And that's
Mhm.
totally normal. And that's what we have to understand, that we have to understand that people grieve in different ways. But let's talk about friendship. I think time does change. So, for example, I stop being friends with someone and a month passes. I can be a little bit upset. I can ask like, "Oh, why are we not friends anymore? Like,
Mhm.
what went wrong?" But then as time passes, I feel like that's when you're able to understand uh how you were, and
Mhm.
like, oh, I think I know the reason why we're not friends anymore. And it could either be you were able to learn a lesson, or well, either way we learn a lesson in any friendship, in any relationship. And I think that's when you realize, oh, maybe this happened. So it's like I feel like time teaches you, or like gives you a reason why things happen.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say, it does give you perspective, because it maybe time has passed by enough
Hmm.
that you've already distanced yourself emotionally that you can now see things
Yes.
in a clearer way. That one, yes.
That is correct. I was struggling to explain it.
I think that's what it is. So I think it's true when time passes after experiencing heartbreak. Again, it is different for everyone. Some people it may take a few weeks
Mhm.
depending on how deep they were in that relationship. Sometimes it could take months, sometimes it could take years, and like you said, there are some that they haven't been able to move on. or they may have like it may look like they moved on because they're now maybe functioning more normally, but there are times that behind closed doors it's still crushing for them. um I think another way for us to tell like how time can help is you've already been able to self-reflect. You've been able to feel like your wounds have healed, and then maybe you're starting to reconnect with others. When you have put your emotions out of like one relationship and start investing them in different relationships that you have in your life,
Mhm.
I think that could be one way. And then maybe being willing to accept different perspectives from other people, that shows that you have started to heal yourself. Or at least that's how I may have felt as well personally. So we're hoping for the audience to go ahead and chime in as well. But how do you know it's time to move on?
Ooh, it's time to move on when you're not the person you used to be. And that's
Mm,
like, especially if it's in a negative way. So
yeah,
you could be, oh, I have a lot of friends now. But what if you have different, what if you're different now? What if you talk bad about people?
right.
You like, you don't listen to your parents.
Mm,
So that's when you reflect on yourself, like, oh, this was not me before. I think it's time for me to go, to change my ways.
right.
That's but it's kind of hard because sometimes you're like, you don't know how you're gonna leave that friend group, but sometimes you have to do it for the better.
Yeah. I think I can understand that. I think other moments that you feel like it would be a sign that it's time to move on is when, I mean, in addition to what you were saying, where you feel like you self-reflected and there's a change in you personally, it could be like how the relationship now starts to feel. Do you start feeling that you're anxious every time you're conversing with that person, or like when you expect to converse with that person in any way, texting, talking, being in the same room? If things are like that and you're starting to feel unhappy, then there's something else there. Maybe there's a conflict or some level of toxicity
Mhm.
that needs to be resolved either by completely disconnecting yourself or by conversing with that person and figuring out what's happening here,
Mhm.
right? And I think other things when you know that it's time to move on is when it starts. I think we discussed this or we heard about this from the mental healing, is when it starts to affect your health, like
Oh,
your physical health, right? If your bowel movements are no longer working the same, or your heart is starting to feel palpitations, your blood pressure is up, everything's gone haywire, then yeah, there may be something else there. If it's not an actual, medical condition.
mhm.
um, and yeah, maybe other things could be like trying to weigh out the pros and cons of how things have turned out. But do we have any comments from our YouTube live chat to see if they've chimed into our conversation so far?
Let us see. Let us see. Ooh. So we have Sister Steph Magallanes. She said heartbreak can be caused by betrayal of trust.
Oh,
Owen?
yes. That is so true. Spill the beans, sister stuff. Just kidding. There are others, right? Others have answered the questions that we were discussing earlier.
Yes, Sister Grace said it's unhealthy when it starts to affect your mental, emotional, and physical health. Yes.
Mm, mhm.
Let's see. Let's see. Sister Grace said, keep going in everyday life, especially when loved ones are looking at you. And Sister Maya Salazar said, healing hurt feelings take time, understanding, open communication, and mutual effort. Healing hurt feeling healing hurt feelings take time. Oh yeah, yes. So I read that. And Brother Marvin said, I think it's time to move on from any relationship or opportunity when it no longer helps you grow as a person.
Oh, amen to that. I completely agree. And I think that also applies in a professional level when you feel that, let's say, your work environment is no longer benefiting you in a positive manner, that you're coming home completely stressed in a way that it's not getting any better. Your health is starting to decline, and there's just, or maybe there was a shift at work, maybe a change in management, or there's a new coworker or whatever. Then yeah, maybe those are signs that tell you that hey, it's probably time to move on. Okay, let's move on to the final question. The most important question for everyone is, how do you know, or how do you actually move on?
Ooh.
We talked about how time can affect it, how it's time, but how do you move on? Because that can be, um, that's not always like a clear cut way of doing things. Everyone
Mhm.
has a different way of handling situations. So, how about you, Sister Eliza? How do you move on?
So I move on and I find a good distraction. It can be
Mm.
finding new people that will benefit me, or trying to like focus on myself. Like I
Mm.
can start journaling, I can start new hobbies like painting, maybe working out more, cuz I feel like taking walks, it is a good distraction, and you're like it
Mhm.
is good for yourself too. So yes. What about you, sister Darlene? How do you move on?
Actually, first, I think I like that when you're saying that, when you go for a walk, it's actually a good distraction. It's like nature's distracting me.
Yeah.
I've never really thought of it that way. Um, I think for, how we move on, I guess like we mentioned, it's different for everyone, but it really does start with acceptance that the relationship that you are reflecting on is not the way you may have perceived it, or it's no longer the way it was. So once you've accepted it, then it'll kind of like give you that perspective that hey, maybe I need to approach this differently. And then you can start reflecting on maybe like your reasons for being in that relationship, or maintaining it.
Mhm.
um, and then what is your goal? Is your goal to compromise your character even further, or is it to repair the relationship? What is the goal? What do you want to see in the future? And then maybe create a plan. But I do like what Sister Amelia Salazar said, reach out to your support network to bear the pain. I think we mentioned that in our mental healing episodes, where find your support system, find the people that will help you be better. And you won't feel like you're going to get backlash or have anything that will further degrade what it is that you're trying to do. And then eventually express your feelings. I think some, if not most people, they don't really like to express their feelings like that, but it is healthy. It is a way for you to maybe um to, if when you verbally say it out loud, it makes you rethink that, okay, is that what I meant, or is that not how I meant it? It'll really help you, it'll help you gain better perspective on it, and then eventually you'll start learning and growing, and taking care of what it is that you need, what it is that you're prioritizing. Is it yourself, or is it this relationship, or is it both? How are you going to do that? So yeah, that's a lot that we're unpacking today, Sister Eliza. Any other comments from our YouTube chat on what it is that they do to move on?
So we have Sister Grace Galarpit. Time to move on. You will know it yourself when you start talking about what happened. That's true. It's like you're more open to sharing, and especially with your emotions. And then
Mhm.
I feel like, because sometimes when you have to talk about something,
Mhm.
the weight on your shoulders, it's like not,
Left.
yeah, it's like,
Yes.
yeah. And we have Brother Brian. He said, heartbreak makes us wiser and stronger. Yes, I feel like you learn a lot from it.
Mhm.
Sister Christina Lazaro, she said, my father passed away 9 years ago, but I'm still grieving. And yes, that's like very normal. I feel like grieving is like, I feel like grieving stays with you. And like, I like what you said earlier, Sister Lee, when you said, um, it can be someone very happy and like, like something like it's completely fine. Like, and then later on, then behind closed doors, they're a different
Yeah.
person. It's like, yeah. So we have to understand that grieving, I feel like it's not something you move on easily from.
No, it's not. Then therefore it's not grieving. Like I feel like the harder you grieve, the more that you felt that relationship was real. That's when you knew that it was true love. Because then if it didn't grieve as much, then it doesn't hurt as much. But when you're putting like your heart on your sleeve, that's expression, right? When you put your heart out on your sleeve, that's the more that it's hurt, the more you know that you've been in a relationship. So yeah, so thank you so much for the comments, everyone. We hope that you have enjoyed our conversation. But I think we do have a couple of things that we want to make sure that we feature. Let's check out our recent district activities. We can go ahead and play the CFO in action. The members of the Church of Christ in Washington, D.C. celebrated the ending of 2023 and the beginning of 2024, all together with food from different countries, Christian music, and fun games and prizes. Moments like these allow for family fun time while reminiscing on the year that has passed. This type of celebration is one that many look forward to at the end of every year.
And don't forget to tune in to INCRadio Washington, D.C. next week. We want to hear from all of you. So the question will be, what is your superpower? Tune
Mhm.
into that because I want to know these answers. And a special thanks to our unstoppable support. We'd like to thank our INC Radio Washington, D.C. family for supporting our broadcast, especially to our district minister, Brother Sidney Santos, our station manager Brother Arnel Solano, our subsea president, Brother Angelo Manalo, and our executive minister of Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Thank you for tuning in to INC Radio Washington, D.C. Satellite Studio. Stay unstoppable and Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! Have a great weekend, everyone. Have a great year.
Yes. Woo, bye.
Bye.
This is INC Radio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia Ni Cristo.